Joining us now is Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Oji.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. How are you?
Good morning.
Great. Good morning, Tunji. Victoria, how are you?
I'm great.
You're covering in for the one that calls you Victoria.
Yes,
Good
it was
job.
my honor to do it.
Good job. Good morning, Rufai. How are you?
Morning, Oji Nika.
Oh, goodness.
Oji Nika. Pepe them,
Oh, the Pepe them back came back. How are you this morning,
I'm doing well.
Rufai?
I'm doing well. How are you? I trust you're good.
I'm doing very well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning to you, viewers. We begin What's Trending with reactions to the invasion of a prison in Benin City, Edo State, Nigeria, by hoodlums on Monday. The hoodlums, who attacked the 1,300 capacity medium security center, overpowered 5 armed guards and freed several inmates. One of the inmates claimed to be an innocent farmer, but he was accused of murder. Let's take a look.
Since 260, what do you do?
I don't do anything. I found my defy for village. They go arrest me, president. They go arrest me. They put allegation from my side. I keep us okay and I not do anything. Now they put me for 62 now. No court, nothing. Now I'm in the support. You can no visit.
Today you are free. Now beneath you, that's the way you go. Say thank you.
Thank you.
Say thank you.
Yeah, you.
Well, meanwhile, following the mayhem unleashed on the city and its environs, the Edo State governor imposed an immediate curfew in the state till further notice. However, this amateur video shows some residents defying the curfew, which was to take effect as at 4 p.m. on Monday. Let's take a look.
Yes. They said it's 24 hours curfew. So we are celebrating the curfew. Very mad. They crazy. Scatter. Buhari must go. Would they Benin Asaba Express Road? Yes, so nothing happened. Very crazy. Yes, so we are celebrating the curfew. Okay. Yes, so DJ is live. Curfew 2020. Curfew in Edo State 2020.
I mean, this was incredible when I saw this happen yesterday. It's just like the US with the Black Lives Matter issue. You know, there was the looting and all the shooting happened. Apparently, there was even the police station that got burnt, if we have that footage. And, you know, those people got away with guns and police uniforms. It was like, you know, something that we've never seen before in Nigeria. I mean, I was shocked.
But there's nothing new under the sun. I keep saying. Same, you know, it's like you just mentioned the Black Lives Matter protest. That descended into chaos as well with looting and what have you. Yes. But at no point did anybody suggest that this is the first time anybody is fighting for racial equality. No. All these things, we've seen it before. But the point I want to make is that the governor had no choice but to issue that curfew. He had to because of the total breakdown in law and order.
Of course.
Because it's often said that it's sort of interfering with people's freedoms, but there's no freedom that's unqualified. All freedoms are restricted. You cannot, in the pursuit of your freedoms, violate other people's freedoms. But it's really telling that even though the governor, chief security officer of the state, imposed a curfew, some of these youths were in flagrant defiance, chanting Buhari must go in that footage that you just showed with a DJ.
Yes,
it was like, they're treating this very important issue with some levity, which is regrettable, I feel. But Buhari must go again. There's nothing new under the sun. We heard IBB must go in the response to, what's that?
SAP riots.
SAP riots. IBB must go. Before that,
1985.
Ali must go because of the 50 kobo increase in university school fees. There is nothing new under the sun.
1978.
Exactly. So all that needs to be done now is for calm to be restored. Protests must never be allowed to turn into opportunities for criminal activities.
Exactly.
And this is exactly what it is looking at. The youth that are protesting about different things. Lack of employment, bad governance. They should not allow criminals to hijack it and completely make a mockery of everything they fought for thus far and the gains that they have actually made.
Yes.
That's my concern.
But what is going to happen now? I mean, these people are, totally defying the governor's curfew at this point. So what's going to happen?
There's going to be a crackdown. No government is going to allow defiance.
Yes. Dr. Abati.
Well, Nigeria is beginning to descend into chaos. If you like, you use the word anarchy. And I think it's important that we define the responsibilities on both sides. The original architects of the current protests, their intention was not to have violence on the streets. They classified their effort as peaceful protest. And for days, the protest was peaceful. But now, at this moment, what we have seen on the streets of Nigeria is not the kind of protest you see on the streets of London or Germany or elsewhere where support has been given to the protests in Nigeria. What we have seen is a degeneration, particularly in the last few days. And the question I continue to raise is that, look, have we not reached a point whereby the original architects would take a pause and say, this thing must not be derailed, it must not lose focus, and perhaps we need to pause a little and re-strategize. And then when we come back, if we must come back, then we adopt a different kind of strategy perhaps, or modify the existing strategy. You can't just leave it open-ended. Once you leave it open-ended, you have this kind of situation whereby other elements will come in. And I insist on this original argument that the class definition of the characterization of the protest may not really explain the true situation. Because if you have had an encounter with these same people that are called hoodlums, you see that they are also angry youths. It's just that their own anger is being channeled in a negative manner. And so how do you make the distinction between those who are positively angry and those who are negatively angry? But something unites them, a cancel culture, what is called cancel culture, whereby, they're saying, we don't want this. On one hand, it is targeted in the direction of violence. On the other hand, it's shaped in the form of demands. But even those demands are continuing to mutate. They are beginning to metastasize from 5 demands, 7 demands, 9 demands, 23 demands. I've even seen 34 demands.
It is
so the metastasization,
Nigeria.
The metastasization of the demands is in itself a problem. Second, the situation in Benin. I mean, the young people, they defied the governor's declaration of a curfew through the secretary to the government, Sarodion Ogie Esquire, and they went onto the streets. They say they are celebrating the curfew. Look at that cynicism.
Yes.
It's a rejection. We're seeing a creeping rejection of authority, defiance on the streets, rejection of the Nigerian state, either at the Federal Capital Territory or on the streets of Benin. And what you see, the level we have reached now, it's like there is a competition among the youths who will stage the best protests, who will stage the best carnival, because what you also find is not just violence, also carnival on the streets.
The DJ.
That was
When the protest went to Port Harcourt, the people of Port Harcourt, they staged something more dramatic than what you find in Lekki Toll Gate. The Lekki Toll Gate people, it was as if they were also competing. They raised the level of the game. So there is a subculture to this protest that, the original architects will need to check so that it doesn't go out of hand. Because if it goes out of hand, as it is beginning to go out of hand, and the state becomes desperate, because when you are now saying Buhari must go, now you are moving from NSAS, the cancel culture of NSAS, NSWAT, to regime change.
Dr. Abati, when you say the originators of the NSAS, there's the convener, Segun Awosonya. There's a story going on that he's pulled back. He's the one who started the hashtag
Well, there is
NSAS.
division within the group. Segun Awosonya has made it clear that he's not the one convening this protest, because at some point, he issued a series of tweets saying this has been hijacked by people who have their own agenda. You recall that over the weekend, even the feminist coalition that we have praised for, focus, for demonstration of strength of character and, you know, the inventiveness of the members, they extended the demands to say this is also a protest about the right of LGBTQ persons.
Yes. But they quickly deleted that.
Yeah, but it's out there in the public domain. Yes. And some people said, are we overstretching this thing? Tomorrow now, you know, the protest can even be about the price of pop-off, which is a very popular delicacy.
Inmates. What is the purpose of
what is your fixation with puff-puff?
And pepper soup. He also has there's pepper soup too. Rufai, please, what is your take on the story?
Doctor, but it's valid though. It might be about price of puff-puff. What led to the French Revolution? Well. Increase in the price of bread. Right. What led to the riot in Liberia? Over rice. So food has become a dominant factor in world protests. So it might be about price of puff-puff. If the price of bread led to increase in French Revolution. But I want to make a point. My point is this. Nigeria currently, and I'm going to use an illustration, looks to me like a patient that has a stroke in evolution. You just check the BP of the patient, it's 200/140. What are the doctors going to do? There's two schools of thoughts. The first doctor will say, let me crash the BP down. Yes, with some drugs, you can bring the BP down to 86, 120/86. But you must also look at organ damage on the patient and the after effect on that. So most doctors, according to research and consensus, will say, bring the BP down gradually. After the first intervention of drugs, at least the BP should be about 150/116. Then you can gradually bring it down and add lifestyle change to make it be 120/86. What am I making invariably? Things are inflamed in this country. Let's not deceive ourselves. Doctor, but you're saying going out of hand. Things have gone out of hand. I saw videos out of Auchi, how people were killed. I cringed. That's why both parties need to come together on the table. I keep saying this. One thing connects all of us. What is it? The fact that we are Nigerians.
Yes.
I have Nigerian blood running in me. You have Nigerian blood running in you. The leadership should come. I don't know how we are going to do it, but I know the common Nigerian spirit and heritage runs in all of us. We need to meet halfway. The president needs to come out and talk to his children and his people. Not messages by ministers, we don't want to hear that. Not messages by proxy. It has to be the president coming out to talk to fellow Nigerians like him. I mean, like when we say fellow Nigerians. They are fellow Nigerians like himself. And we need to meet halfway to start to solve the problem and push demands. Not about committee. We want to see leadership. We don't want to lose this country. We have no other home to go to apart from this. This is our country. This is the land of our birth.
Good point, Rufai. All right.
Well, just before you move on, I need to make a comment about this jailbreak.
The jailbreak?
In Benin Maximum Prison and the Okpe prison. And I think that, you know, it's another level of the crisis that we need to worry about. We were told that about 100 persons had camped in front of that prison as early as 7 a.m. yesterday. Now, if there is unusual movement around the prison yard, I thought that there must be some responsible authorities who will try to make proper arrangement to ensure that that prison facility is not overwhelmed. Anyway, as it happened, we were told that some prisoners escaped through the roof, and they came out, and they were received by the protesters. And the most shocking part of it is that the warders, although they have a different version, the prison officials, they say, oh, they were shooting, they were trying to prevent. But in any case, the jailbreakers made good their escape. But what I find most shocking is the video you showed. Nigeria must be the only country in the world where a jailbreaker will come out and be treated as a celebrity. And he will even grant an interview.
It was not just one video. There were several videos.
I know many of them granted interviews.
Yes.
Now, when prisoners have become celebrities, then it means that that's a perfect demonstration of chaos. In other parts of the world, if you are a prisoner and you make good your escape, you will hide. But in Nigeria, you know, jailbreakers are beginning to grant interviews.
Yes.
That's the height of
the other one
defiance.
was implicated
putting their face on camera.
Yes.
Yes.
No. Some of them, they claim that they're innocent. They're all saying, no, let us retry our case. No,
Jailbreakers are granting interviews.
Look at this one.
I mean, some of them will even join the protest.
No,
the way they are carrying
Dr.
on.
Bati, that's why I asked you about this protest. Now you're saying it's going to move to Pop. What was the reason for this?
Leave Pop alone.
What was the reason for this? What is this?
I find it very difficult to define. There was just a general anarchy. And I asked our last guest about nihilism. He wasn't convinced. I'm not sure. When you're just destructive for the sake of being destructive.
Burning a prison?
Yes.
Burning a police station?
I'm sure that jailbreaker, if we invite him to come on this program, he will willingly come and...
You mean the inmates? You mean the inmates?
No, he's not a jailbreaker because they've escaped.
Yes, exactly. The jailbreaker. Yes. I thought
He's on the
meant
streets.
hoodlum. Yes, exactly. Well,
Michael
let's take
Scofield.
another story. Let's take another story, guys.
Prison break, Michael Scofield.
Right. Well, still in Nigeria. On Monday, hundreds of protesters marched to the international airport in the commercial capital, Lagos. Footage from the scenes show crowds of young people outside the main terminal building chanting EndSARS. Earlier in the day, protesters blocked roads in Lagos, and hundreds of them headed to Murtala Mohammed Airport, disrupting traffic heading to the terminal. They say they won't leave the streets until the Nigerian government accepts their demand. Incredible. Well, meanwhile, the Arise interview with musician Falana Folarin, professionally known as Fowls, giving reasons why protesters will not leave the streets, have gone viral. Well, let's take a listen to Fowls before we come back for a discussion.
Make sure that justice is done. It is unfair to the lives that have been lost that you're coming here and you're telling us to get off the streets. It is extremely unfair. In fact, it's terrible for any human being to even without justice being done, to tell people to get off the streets. I completely disagree with that. I would say, if you want people off the streets, make sure that justice is done and in a way that is transparent. Which one of those points really need time? If we're being honest with ourselves, which one of all the points on the 5 for 5 agenda really needs time? Come on. If you really need time to release all arrested peaceful protesters, you really need time for that? Or you really need time to make sure that justice is done and appropriate compensation? What real actions have been shown? What real actions have been taken to show that you're serious about doing this?
Well, that's the rhetoric of every EndSARS protester. They're all saying we're not getting off the streets because we need this action to be, in place. But the fact still remains, these things do need time. And it's a problem. I don't know how, this communication would start. I mean, there needs to be some sort of, negotiation between the EndSARS protesters and the government. I mean, the Lagos State governor is doing his best. I mean, he's paraded those 4 police officers. He's set up the trust fund. But the point still remains, these things do need time. I think that they should just start by, like I said, firing people. That is what I think is the beginning of the conversation.
I think that would be a great
Firing
help. And
people.
also for the president to address the
Yes.
people. These things are
My last
very
story.
important. Yes. So I'll leave it for your story.
Yes, Dr. Abati.
Well, I mean, you saw the image of the Murtala Mohammed
Yes.
International Airport here in Lagos, taken over by protesters yesterday. That happened yesterday. There was no movement, along that entire airport stretch. You had these young people staging their protests, and they were determined. They were, energetic. Now, the international airport is a security unit. Now, once the protesters take over a strategic space, like the international airport, a gateway to the country, it simply means that there's no other institution or building that they cannot overwhelm. And that, again, underscores the seriousness of the crisis that we face. Secondly, the international airport is also part of the image of the country. You can imagine that many persons would rather stay away from Nigeria at this time because even the main gateway to the country, you are not safe.
Huge
Protesters, hoodlums, whatever, they overwhelm the place. Then, of course, nobody is safe. It means that the security of the state itself has been compromised. So it's a very serious thing. Also in Abuja, there have been stories about how people were prevented from getting to the airport. Now, this morning, Reuters brought a story about how the stock market is responding to the crisis, to the EndSARS crisis, where it's not just the stock market, also trading at the NAFEX window has also stalled. The parallel market has remained at the same spot for the past 3-4 days because investors, will also be very cautious. So at the end of the day, when there is a proper calculation of the cost of this crisis, it will be a lot. And at a time when Nigeria is talking about revenue crisis, debt crisis, the deleterious effect of COVID-19, and I think that there is a sense of urgency, the urgency of now, to the point raised by Tonton, that the president needs to step forward, to check this drift by providing leadership personally and not leaving it to persons who go to him and they come and tell us this is what the president said. These angry youths don't want to hear what the president said. They want the president himself to say, look, and they are even beginning to say now that the president must not call them my children.
All right,
that's the level
let's go
of the protest.
Before I come to you, Rufai, I'll take this story. Well, demonstrators in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, have continued to defy the government's order banning protests in the territory for violating coronavirus regulations. On Monday, several cars belonging to protesters were burnt around Kabusa Junction in the Abuja district area of the nation's capital. It's reported that the incident occurred around 6 p.m. Well, amid attacks on protesters by hoodlums, security operatives have also been implicated. Well, here is a video showing members of the Nigerian police assaulting a woman who draped herself with the national flag. Let's take a look. Rufai, your take on this story?
Straight up, it just shows that there's anarchy. That's anarchy. There's no other thing you can call it. That's anarchy. You can see what's happening. That lady was draped in the flag of our sovereign, our country's flag. And a respecter of the flag, a member of the armed forces, still went ahead to brutalize her. That's to show that there's already anarchy. And that's why what we keep saying is this: please, let us do what is right. And also, I quickly want to make a point, and I'll use a term. Please, people should refrain from any form of Ahitophelic counsel. Any counsel that is Ahitophelic in nature, that would inflame the tensions on ground now, I beg you, please refrain for it. If you're counseling people on the side of the government or the side of the protesters, let us counsel them in peace, because this country is our country. And we need to stem that in the tide. We cannot afford to let our country go this way. Nobody wins when things like this happen. Demands are genuine. And those demands too should be met with genuine answers and actions. But there are some people known for any form of Ahitophelic counsel. Please, if you are doing it, I beg you, it is only one Federal Republic of Nigeria we have. Let us all give peace a chance across board. I beg you. Right. I beg you.
I mean, those cars that were burned, I mean, we still don't know how that happened.
Mindless vandalism. I mean, this is people's property.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's getting, really out of hand. This is insane. We'll take our final story. Well, as the country continues to battle uncertainty amidst the NSAR's protests, religious leaders have also lent their voice to the cause. Well, in a recent video, the pastor of Calvary Bible Church, Olumide Emmanuel, has called on President Muhammadu Buhari to address the country. Let's take a look.
Where is our president? Vice President is apologizing. He's writing letter. Where is our president? Oga Buhari, Baba Buhari, President Buhari, what will it take you, sir? Dear Mr. President, what will it take you? Your children are on the streets. They voted you in. What will it take you to stand up as a father? Not as a president, sir. As a father. Forget people writing script for you. And just say, my children, not fellow Nigerians, not citizens of Nigeria, my children. We have disappointed you. We have hurt you. We are sorry. If you really have a good intention, sir, what will it cost you, Mr. President, to say, my children, believe me as your president, give me 30 days. This shall be done. If this is not done in 30 days, I will resign. If this is not done in 6 months, I will resign. What will it cost you to do that? If you miss this opportunity, Mr. President, you miss an opportunity to write your name in a memorable way. This is the time for you to prove that you are a man of integrity. Rise up and bring the reform that the nation needs. Answers! Answers! End police brutality! End corruption! Bloodshed and bad governance. We call for a new Nigeria.
Well, I think this pastor hit the nail on the head. I think the president of Nigeria will miss this opportunity if he does not come out to address us as a nation.
I agree wholeheartedly. For every day of silence, what we get is mounting casualties. This needs to be nipped in the bud while it can be. And it's still manageable. The people are still looking to hear from the president. And the president of a country is the national pater familias. We all have our family patriarchs and what have you. At a national level, it is the president. We do want to hear from him. Everybody on all sides of this argument, I'm sure we all agree that the president's deafening silence has gone on for far too long. And this has become customary in Nigeria when we see leadership in terms of power and not in terms of service. The president is the ultimate public servant. He is our servant. He's supposed to serve us. This is the whole point. This is a president who cried publicly.
Yes.
A man like President Buhari, a general, he broke down crying. He was so moved, ostensibly, by the state of Nigeria. This is when he was contesting as presidential candidate for CPC. And now we have this radio silence. It's not right. It's completely unsatisfactory. We need to hear from the president.
Yes, a lot of people have described this situation as anarchy right
now.
Well,
Pastor Olumide Emmanuel, founder of the Calvary Bible Church in Idimu, Lagos, and founder also of the Olumide Emmanuel Foundation, spoke a lot of sense there. I don't think it's by accident that he's regarded as a common sense guru by members of his congregation. And there was a lot of common sense in what he said in that regard. But I'd like to draw attention to something that Father George Usani wrote about in a book titled The Prophetic Church. And what he said, basically, to summarize in that book, Usani argued that the prophetic church is the church of the poor, that the church does not exist in isolation in society, and that when the congregation has a problem, the church must stand on the side of the people and speak for the people. So what we have seen in the midst of all of this happening in Nigeria is how a prophetic church is emerging. It's not just Pastor Olumide Emmanuel. Pastor Adeboye has been supporting the protest. His son was reported as having been part of the protest physically. At the Lekki toll gate, we saw Pastor Ichua Ighodalo also taking part in the protest. Yes. Pastor Sam Adeyemi has been very vocal that's of the Daystar Church, has been very vocal on both Twitter and elsewhere to say that, look, the people have a good case. And we saw a mass, Catholic mass, conducted at the Lekki toll gate. So you see religious leaders also joining the process. So that, you know, the point about that is that our pain is collective.
Correct.
You know, it doesn't leave anybody out. And it's important to see influencers, because pastors will fall under the category of influencers, also speaking up, in addition to celebrities all over the world, also saying something has gone wrong in Nigeria. What is that thing that has gone wrong? Whether it's 5 demands, or 7 demands, or 9 demands, or a catalog of demands, the state must show seriousness in addressing those demands and reassuring the angry populace that this country can be different, the change that the people have been promised is real, and that we can have a better day in Nigeria.
Yes. Rufai, your take on this. The one point that the pastor raised was when he said that the president should come out and, say, if I don't do this, I will resign. I mean, I feel like that was quite commendable. I feel like, a lot of people share that rhetoric as well.
I mean, that's a wonderful rhetoric when you look at it. It's just a level of accountability that leaders should be held accountable. I mean, somebody was saying the other day that if this is happening in some more countries, some people will have taken the high road to resign and say, you know what, I think I'm part of this, and they resign. In fact, I remember, I think it was a member of the House of Lords in England that came late for a briefing, and he said he didn't have the moral right to continue that briefing. In fact, a lot of people begged him that, no, stay back, it's okay to come late, but he said, no, that I came late, that means I don't have the moral right to continue that briefing. That video went viral in England. And that shows the level of accountability. Because, you see, leadership is service. A man called Jean-Jacques Rousseau wrote a book called The Social Contract. And he talked about the social contract of government and the people. And indeed, it's a contract. It is a contract hedged every 4 years in Nigeria. That's why I tell people the greatest protest tool ever is the ballot. It is hedged and renewed every 4 years. So every 4 years when you go to cast your vote for a candidate, it's a contractual agreement. And when you have those contractual agreements, there are terms in those contracts. There are things that bind both of you. And service is what binds you to the people. And that's why the Constitution makes a provision that if you are found wanting in that, you can be punished. That's why we have given the constitutional recall for members of House of Assembly and the Senate. So service needs to be the cornerstone. And in the spirit of service and due patriotism and nationalism, it is only right when you see your country inflamed and hurt to come out and speak to them. Because these people want to hear you. They want to feel your pulse. They want to know that you feel what they are feeling. Yeah, the vice president has said sorry, but a lot of people will say, we didn't vote for the vice president of the ballot. It was just your running mates. We voted for you. So come out, let us feel you. And there are ways at which leaders can change things. The British people, their confidence in Britain waned in the Second World War until Winston Churchill came out to say that if we pass through this period, it will be our finest hour. And that jacked the British people up again. And they were ready to fight. When Winston Churchill said, we'll fight them on the land, we'll fight them on the sea. So words are powerful, especially words of leaders can turn things around.
Well, those words should not be empty. They should be backed with substance and action. Otherwise, it will be no more than rhetoric. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Oji,
Dr. Abati.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tinubu.
And that's all on What's Trending.